Previously, we have discussed about how we can compile and run Petaq implant, Petaq service, Petaq dropper, Petaq MC patcher. However, we have a challenge here. Whenever we receive a shell, it has limited privileges. Let's run our Petaq service and this time get a good shell, and that shell should have more privileges. Let's make it visible for our sample and then we can modify this. Let's verify our Windows Defender settings again. So we can see that Windows Defender is up to date and we can see how it works. Windows Defender is here. Currently no thread found. And we can turn it on as well, which is the auto submission. Security intelligence data is up and everything seems all right for Windows Defender perspective. So if it identifies us, it will send the sample directly to the cloud to train it. That means, again, no easy way out. Let's run our initial implant and see how unprivileged we are. This is our starter command that introduces the dropper, then runs MC patcher, and then runs Petaq implant. But as we discussed previously, MC is patched for the current process only. If we have other behaviors touching the different components such as registry, disk, or elsewhere, MC can identify us using the different controls implemented in Windows 10 anyway. So we are not patching or dismissing Windows Defender at all. We are just patching it only for our current process. And we need to do that for each process we run. Now, we have Petaq service running here and getting our own implant first. So this will introduce dropper, MC patcher, and we have the implant. Let's see how privileged we are. In our implant, we run the who am I and prev. That gives us the privilege list. It looks like we are an ordinary user with some user activity privileges. However, the impact here is quite limited because our user is actually a user who has administrative privileges, but it needs UAC to get this done. In our perspective, if UAC is a problem, we can bypass UAC. If we need more than that, we need to find another way to exploit this system to elevate our privileges. If our user is not a part of administrators group, we need to use legitimate Windows or driver or internal components or configuration weaknesses. Recently, Windows had a lot of different types of vulnerabilities, but this victim is up to date. And that's what we are working on. So we need to make sure that it works on the up-to-date Windows. But almost all these elevation of privilege issues are fixed. In addition, there are some issues in the wild for the third-party applications or configuration weaknesses. They are also identified by Windows Defender, so Windows Defender will identify this. If we use Meterpreter, just like we received in our previous videos, Meterpreter UAC bypasses implemented in Metasploit can be also identified by Windows Defender. So we need to find a new way. The new way is actually an old way, and I will explain this manually and how we introduce this. Currently, our privileges are quite limited, as we discussed, and let's see how we can change this. Remember that our user is the administrator on this system. This is a common misconfiguration for all enterprises, large organizations, or smaller organizations. They make the users local admin of their laptops, which is quite dangerous, and you will see how and why now. Let's work on it one by one. This UAC bypass is identified by Windows Defender. It is a known bypass, also implemented in Meterpreter and Metasploit, and in the wild. However, we changed this, and you will see how it works with that minor change. First, we start with our information. We are executing a command which is echo path. It shows us the paths that are in the path variable. This environment variable helps us to use commands without full path. So we can use this to actually run certain command without giving full path. And this also says that if it is under users, it must be writable to us. And I'm just uploading a test batch file as UAC bypass bat. This batch file is actually this. It is not so complicated. If you remember from our videos, we can use PowerShell to run certain commands that can introduce our assembly inline in memory. So it uses system reflection assembly to load this, use type method, and runs it. Remember that it is here and it is hidden. The Windows style is hidden. So whenever this batch file runs, the PowerShell will be invisible. I'm using this PowerShell, but there are several different tricks here. If you understand how it works, you can, of course, customize this. And now I'm just customizing it, another command, and seeing that our UBP is uploaded well, and it is here. So you can change your batch file, you can change the path, and etc. So there is no signature for Windows Defender here. But Windows Defender monitors one thing, which is a registry key. So be careful what you write here. This registry key, HK current user, software, classes, folder, shell, open, and command, will be running after a certain Windows component runs. And it will have elevated privileges by default without asking any questions. So UBP bat, the batch file we uploaded, will be in this registry. Let's see. The registry did not trigger anything. Okay, we are slightly safe. Let's use the second step of the registry manipulation, which is the delegate execute. So it's simply delegate our binary to run another command given in this registry key. So if delegate execute is on, this command will be running instead of our own command. It's a simple delegation. Our command is scclt, and we are running it, and we'll see how it goes. I executed this. Something popped out, which was the batch file. Whenever we call a batch file, it pops out and it runs on Windows CMD. You don't need to use batch file. You can upload your clear executable here as well. But remember that whenever you use exe or CMD or PowerShell or something like that here in the words, that will be a problem, because this part, sorry, just scroll down, and this part is highly monitored by Windows Defender for the abuse. So the signature is based on this part. So you can modify this. So what I did here is using a batch file, and previously I was using the executable name, and CMD and PowerShell, they all got identified. Eventually this will be also identified, and then that's the point. We are actually training the defense teams. Now, if we see the action happened right after that, we received an EV implant. Let's go back and list the implants. Yes, we have an EV implant. This one is here. Let's use it and see how it works. We have lots of privileges. That includes, say, debug privilege that will be used to debug the memory of LSAS for the credential dumps. This is how it works for now. So we have 2 implants, and those implants have different privileges. And this one is, again, UAC bypass administrator. And we can use any commands as in this context, exec or exec sharp assembly or exec shellcode. Now, we previously have used Meterpreter. Now we will use Meterpreter here as well to make sure that it works here, right? Because we need interactive actions, and we need this with more privileged actions, more privileged levels. So let's use our Meterpreter handler again. Let's make sure that our handler is working from the previous session. Okay, this the Meterpreter handler is working, and our payload is there. So we can call our payload in this privileged session to see that whether or not Windows Defender will see anything. Exec shellcode file, and the file is given as Meterpreter and x64 architecture. Let's see we get identified or not. The process is injected. There is no alert. Anything? Did it work? Yes. Now we have a session coming from Windows Defender and passing through with no detection. And this time we have a lot of different privileges here that we can utilize. Our session is session 2. This is sysinfo. And we have some privileges here, as we previously discussed. So we can run some dangerous commands. However, keep this in mind. Whenever you use some dangerous commands, they will be identified by Windows Defender. Get system, UAC bypass, and etc. Eventually, you will get identified, and eventually, it will be killed. Instead, getting the system token safely and delivering this to Meterpreter and Metasploit is a better solution. Or another thing is useful here. You can steal tokens of different processes, manipulate them using incognito, or you can use Kerberos to pass the ticket. It's up to you, but this time you have privileges, but also MC running on your shoulder. Let's talk about the rest of the actions in another video.